Hello, I'm Kevin Church, and this month for April 2023, our MUFIC Songwriter of the month is Keith Driver. Hey Keith, how you doing?
Howdy.
Great.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. So please tell us how you got started in music. Did you come from a musical family?
I did. I got it from both sides. Dad's side, musical application as far as playing, and I think I just got good taste in music from my mom's side of the family. She's a big Elvis fan, so that was a huge influence on me.
Oh wow, great. So tell us about your first instrument. What was that?
Well, absolutely. It was the guitar. There was guitars in just about every single room at my grandparents' house, and long story I won't go into, but I wound up moving back home to Virginia from Pennsylvania and lived with my grandparents for a couple of years to finish high school.
Okay.
And I had access to, a piano and a dozen guitars. And that was the beginning of me showing an interest in playing. Grab a guitar, head up to my room and start working it out.
Wow. All right. So watching you play, viewers haven't seen it yet, as far as that we know of, other than people that you know.
That's right.
You play the guitar upside down?
Yes, it is a right-handed guitar. Well, this is technically is a left-handed guitar, but it's strung right-handed.
Okay.
But I flip it over and play it left-handed, the exact same way that Dick Dale played in the 60s with Frankie, all those Frankie and Annette Beach movies.
Nice.
There's a few of us that do it like this, and it works out. I tell people quite often it makes more sense to me to have the low strings low and the high strings high.
Makes sense.
It does for me.
That's wonderful. So you are quite the picker, though. You're not just a guitar player who plays upside down or left-handed. You are a very, very proficient player. So how long did it take you to get to that level? Like, what all did you do to get there other than practice?
Well, I started messing with the guitar around 14, 15 years old, but I think I got serious about it somewhere between 16 and 17. And so, of course, I started off playing just chords. Mm-hmm. And then from chords, I went to being able to play a little bit of a boogie rhythm.
Right.
And then not long after that, I started playing lead patterns.
Right.
And so I would say by the time I was 20, I was considered a novice lead guitar player.
Okay. And that's coming from someone who's been to Nashville, lived in Nashville. Tell us about that. How did that start?
I was approached at a nightclub in Richmond, Virginia called the Godfather Lounge by a guy, and I can't remember his name right off the top of my head. But anyway, his brother-in-law was a talent scout out of Nashville.
Okay.
He flew into town. He introduced me. We hit it off, and he signed me to a management deal. Leon Martin. And we went to Nashville. He put me in the recording studio, recorded 4 of my original songs that I had written at that point.
Nice.
Yeah, and I wasn't crazy about the business side of the music business, but I love the music. And so I just decided Nashville was where I needed to be and starting to visit. And then it turned into me living out there for 13 years.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were there that long. Yep. Okay. So you're there for 13 years.
Yeah.
And so tell us about your songwriting journey. How did that all... How does that start? You were in Nashville with it? I mean...
I started writing before I ever moved to Nashville, believe it or not. Once I had gotten to the point where I could play proficiently, and I knew my majors and my minors and some of the nicer chords, some of the studio chords I call them, those 9s and 11s, I started writing, just putting. Of course, when you're a teenager, you don't have as many experiences to draw on.
Sure.
And so, looking back at some of the stuff I wrote when I was a teenager, it's a little bit on the novice side, but you got to start somewhere. And so, yeah, I've got songs that I wrote as early as 16 years old.
Oh man!
And And I don't write as much these days, but I still, whenever something inspires me, I'll sit down, grab a guitar and pen, piece of paper. I wrote a Christmas song about 3 months ago.
Oh, did you?
Yep.
Okay.
First Christmas song I've ever written.
Nice.
It's called Low Country Christmas.
Low Country Christmas. All right. That's awesome. So, we were talking off camera, and you talk about all these different things like that inspire you, like moments, and you. Because we were talking about riff versus words. You were saying that some folks have formulas, like a lot of the writers in Nashville, they have formulas where the hook is the important thing. So
my dear friend Carl Jackson, right? He's got a formula that he sticks to, and he writes backwards. He writes from the end of the song back to the beginning of the song. I can't imagine how he does it, but I'd say he's got a really good career under his belt and 2 Grammys on his wall to support his theory.
Right.
So God love him for it. There's really no rhyme or reason as to where my inspirations come from. It's like I was telling you a little while ago. One song I wrote came from an episode of Sanford and Son. And then, of course, another one came from a phone call that I got about a friend of mine that had accidentally committed suicide. And so it just no rhyme or reason at all. It's whenever the inspiration hits, it could be a melody. So in which case the song would start musically, or it could be something that somebody says, a phrase, a hook line. In which case the song would come to fruition lyrically first. Right. I don't have a formula. I know that sounds weird. A lot of people that write on a regular basis have a set way to write. Yeah. And I don't happen to be one of those people.
Well, I mean, not a lot of, a lot of people do have their formulas, but a lot of others just, they feel an inspiration, they roll with it, just like you're talking about, whether it be strumming something or a lick comes to them or whatever it is.
Well, it's like that eBay auction. I heard the guy play that lick on the guitar, and
show us that right quick that you showed me earlier.
So I'm looking at eBay as an Ovation preacher, and I fell in love with it. I wanted the guitar, and there was a YouTube link in the description because check out the YouTube link, you can see the guitar. And the first lick he played was 5 notes, just 5 notes. And when I heard those 5 notes, I turned the computer off. I grabbed the guitar. I replicated what I had just heard. And within 20 minutes, I had written a song called From Where I Stand. And you can certainly go to YouTube and type in Keith Driver From Where I Stand and hear it. And that's that's the opening riff to the song. So an eBay auction inspired that one.
It's so wild. It's just crazy how inspiration can come. I mean, if we have our antenna up and just allow it to flow, it's neat. So,
absolutely. So
tell us about, all right, so we've talked about your childhood, where the musical influences came from. We've talked about you being 16, writing your first songs, and then being discovered at 19, was it? Or 20? How old were you?
Yeah, I was 19 when I went out to Nashville with Leon and stayed out there right on through. I think I moved home in right around 2004, 2005.
Okay.
It was just the music was starting to change. I could tell. Man, I could actually tell a few years earlier. I was just hoping it was going to bounce back.
Right.
But by the time we got to 2005, and I could hear that music, the country music in particular, that's where my heart is at, and I could tell that it wasn't going to go back to that Vince Gill, George Strait, Alan Jackson, Ricky Van Shelton, Randy Travis sound that made me fall in love with it in the late 80s, in the early 90s. At that point, Garth had pushed the envelope so far, so hard with the crazy antics that he was pulling on stage. And then, of course, there was new groups that were starting to emerge, like Rascal Flatts, and they had a more progressive sound.
Right.
And it was sort of a blend of in my opinion, it was like a blend of classic rock.
Right.
Which, don't get me wrong, I love classic rock.
Yeah.
But that's the format. It's a classic rock format. It's not a country format.
Right.
And when you start to push the formats together, I mean, you never know what you're going to hear when you turn on the radio. In the late 80s, early 90s, when you turned on the radio and Vince Gill was singing When I Call Your Name, number one, you knew who was singing.
Right.
There was no question when Vince Gill opened his mouth to sing, you knew who was singing the song.
Sure.
Now, if I turn on the radio today, number one, I have no idea who the artists are, or the producers, or the players. If I want to record another country record, I'm going to have to go back and do bluegrass again.
Right.
The bluegrass is about as close to traditional country as it gets right now.
I got you.
And so they all, over time, they get up and they move down one, and then they fill the slot. In the 50s, rock and roll,
right,
was kind of what country was in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. All that stuff is amazing to me, like how it's all played out. And then here we are today.
Absolutely.
So what song are you going to do for us today?
Arm's Length Away from My Heart. I had been in Nashville recording the entire week. This is back in 2008. And on my way home to Virginia, which is where I was living at the time, there was a new single that came out. It was on the radio. And the song was called, let's see. I can't remember the artist or the song. But anyway, I heard it, and it resonated with me, and I loved it. And I said, I love the groove. I love the feel of the song. I turned the radio off, and of course I had a little handheld recorder at the time. Mm-hmm. And so I'm riding. I was probably somewhere along Knoxville, Tennessee, 40 east.
Right.
On the west side of Knoxville. And by the time I got to the east side of Knoxville, which is roughly where the North Carolina borderline is, the song was written. And I will say this. The hook line came from a good friend of mine in Missouri. She had told me this hook line, arm's length away from my heart. And that kind of had been filed away. Anytime I hear something that's a little bit left of center, something that you don't hear every day, I file it away. And arm's length was certainly a good little hook, in my opinion, at the time. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, Terry Wheeler, if you're watching, great hook. Thank you very much. Great song came out of it. And by the time I got to the other side of Knoxville, crossing into North Carolina, it was done.
That is wild. Well, we are looking forward to playing that with you. I have Karen Egan coming in, and
all right,
we're gonna jam out with you, buddy. It's gonna be fun,
dude. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Thank you, Keith. Keith Driver, everybody.
Thank you, man.
So
thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy.
It's been a blast.
That has been, man. And it's gonna be even more fun when we get to play together.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right.
And a 1, 2, 3, 4. Baby, here we are right back at the beginning again. You tell me that you love me, and I'm always the one giving in. That's when you put your arms around me, girl, you really know your part. So it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I take 1 step forward, 2 steps away from me. We have one little fight, and then you're running home to Tennessee. That's when you call me on the phone, girl, you really got it down to an art. So this time I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. And then you'll be the one to see just how it feels to be alone in the dark. You know I'm always gonna love you, and we'll never be that far apart. So this time I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. All right, come on. You say we've got a history. If we do, then it's a mystery to me. You know I really wanna trust you, but it's getting kinda hard to believe that you could ever really love me, 'cause you never finish what you start. So it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I'm gonna keep you an arm's length away from my heart. And then you'll be the one to see just how it feels to be alone in the dark. You know I'm always gonna love you, and we'll never be that far apart. Well, it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. I wanna put my arms around you, but I really don't know where to start. So it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. Yeah, it's time for me to keep you an arm's length away from my heart. To the top.
Very nice, man.
One take driver. They call me one take driver.
MUFIC sets you free.